don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello there. Time for chapter 5 of my book. Been reading it. I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying rereading my own book, of course. I mean, I wrote it. And what kind of narcissist would I be if I didn't enjoy it? I'm just kidding. Narcissist. I just think I'm a good writer. And I'll get better. I'll get better. I'll just say that. You know what? Hello there. Welcome to chapter 5. I just finished reading chapter 4 the other day. And, well, I just finished my recap the other day. And now I'm going to read chapter 5. I'm probably going to be a short video. Really short. Probably only a few minutes long. Because I'm going to break it up. Because there's kind of like a space in between. Like, yeah, whatever. You'll see. There'll probably be 3 videos. Two videos of just the chapter, and then the third one will be basically like I do, ramble on about other things besides the actual chapter. Okay. Chapter 5, Defeat. Fire blended in with storm clouds in the dark sky. Thunderclaps were closing in with the flap of every wing as dozens of dragons flew in towards an army of elves. The fire burned out everything in its way as the dragons got closer and closer to the elven army. Elves, clad in armor and wielding blades at the ready, stood in lined formations. The elves were robed in twined vines and leaves, holding wands and staves directed high to the heavens. The sky seemed to freeze due to the strenuous, simultaneous casts. As the dragons flew in, blazing fire from their mouths, the flames were stopped and held in place, which made them flutter with a majestic hue. As some of the flames licked through the barrier, they seemed to move like molasses. One of the elven casters' shields shattered like glass under the attack of the magic backlash caused... Okay, I need to go back. Getting ready to get in the habit of reading it. Oh my gosh. Hello there. One of the elven casters' shields shattered like glass under the attack of the magic backlash caused by the elf attack, and the magic backlash caused by the elf to drop to the knee. Caused by the... Oh my gosh, I can't even... I'm adding words that aren't even there. I don't even know what's wrong with me. One of the elven casters' shields shattered like glass under the attack, and the magic backlash caused the elf to drop to the ground as the fire that broke through engulfed him, sending a blast outwards and bringing those soldiers nearby him to also fall in flames. Other elves who had overused their magic collapsed into unconsciousness, not having the source of magic to sustain it. "Hold!" the elven commander shouted. As soon as the fire passed, the elves casting the shield dropped them. Oh my gosh. I'm not breathing properly. I think that's the issue. I'm not breathing properly, so I'm kind of putting punctuations where they shouldn't be as I'm reading. As soon as the fire passed, the elves casting the shields dropped them and began to fire multiple items into the air. Rocks were sent flying by casters, and large wooden... Can't turn pages. Spears were thrown into the skies by foot soldiers, trying to fend off the last few flying dragons, and to bring them down to the ground, where the elves clad in armor would promptly charge, thrusting their blades forward to pierce through the dragon's hides. Concentrate your fire. Several casters focused on one dragon, grabbing the dragon with the same spell they used to stop the flames, trying to bring it down. The dragons who were last to fly over received the main brunt of the assault. They lost their balance and fell crashing to the ground. Lier saw the dragon smash into the ground. Now, she roared. All the heads in her battalion followed her lead and charged to the nearest dragon. They fell in behind her, bringing their swords to bear in front of them. Lier veered towards the left wing with now well-trained precision. The battalion started to move past her, heading to key places on the dragon's body in order to prevent him from taking to the air again. Lier felt something was off. She tried to listen past the storm, their charging footsteps, and the yelling of the elves all around her, and there it was, the sound of thunder caused by a dragon's massive wings flapping near them. Halt, Lier commanded, while stopping immediately and throwing her left hand up in the air. Shield! Lier followed with her right hand, creating a small circular gesture in the air to notify the mages who were unable to hear her that their shields must go up. Lier's core group, which had been with her for many cycles of the war, being with her first days at the original jail, responded in time and followed her orders to the letter. They all stopped, and the shield went up, only to be impacted a few moments later against the fire which had rained from the skies. The multitude of elves who did not catch her orders were left to be slaughtered. Amber Leader Lier, Elsri called out with distress evident in her voice. We need to fall back. Elsri paused her way to Lier. Our attack has failed, she finished as soon as she got to Lier and set her hand on her shoulder. You must give the order, she said in a stern voice. Lier looked into Elsri's deep violet eyes. Lier clenched her jaw tightly and ordered in a stern voice, sound the retreat. Sound retreat, Elsri shouted. Echoes of the command could be heard around the battlefield, and those who were lucky enough to survive began to flee as the dragons swooped in, picking the slow ones off one by one. Most of the other company's mages focused on protecting themselves with smaller shields during the retreat instead of expanding their efforts at a large shield to protect the whole company. Lier was riding off the battlefield. She realized they had pushed too hard into... It was pushed earlier. Elsri pushed her way to Lier. I hate dyslexia sometimes. I read pause somehow. Lier was riding off the battlefield. She realized they had pushed too hard into the dragon's territory. For nearly a century, the elves had been able to claim victory after victory, but as they got closer to the dragon's stronghold at the foot of the mountain range, known as Dragon's Peak, they began to gain less and less ground. She realized they had been led into a trap on this day. There were no longer individual attacks by the dragons. One of the dragons was now leading them all as a single force. They fought as a unit. The elves had no backup plan for when their maneuvers failed, or for this new approach by the dragons. "We must change how we do things," Lier whispered under her voice. As she sat astride her Eldir, facing her retreating forces and the dragons who would not cross a certain point, where the mages had repositioned themselves for attack. "Or else this war will not be ours," she added, after seeing how many more dragons were lining the crest. How many more dragons were lining the crest on the opposite side of the battleground? Just observing, not even in combat. While her soldiers, bloodied and burnt, crawled and limped past her. As soon as all the surviving elves had made it past the point which the dragons would not cross, the dragons swooped around and headed off into the distance, flying over their comrades who remained unmoving and perched on the other side of the battlefield. Lier turned and headed off the battlefield back to the encampment, walking over charred elven remains and the scorched earth. The elven encampment had moved gradually as they had killed dragons and conquered more and more land. They were able to move closer and closer to the dragon's stronghold, which now Lier realized had been the dragon's plan all along. The elves had committed too strong a force. Their supplies were running low, and they were far from their resources. She considered the dragon's actions throughout the conflict and what she would have done in their position. Sacrifice the weak while staying back with the strong until the enemy comes calling. Overcommitted to the battle. They do not understand, Lier thought. She nodded to herself. She nodded to herself. Yes, that is what I would do. "What was that?" Elsri asked. Lier looked to the side. She had not noticed when Elsri had ridden up beside her. "Oh, nothing." She looked forward, just talking to myself, she said in a more hushed tone. They rode in silence to their camp. As soon as they arrived at the campsite, they noticed a few of the commander's guards there ahead of them. Ike. Lier cursed under her breath. She tossed her reins to Neri and got off her ride. She composed herself, then marched over to the guards. When she got to them, she just stood there before them. "You are being ordered to report to Violet Leader," the guards in the front stated. Then, in unison, they turned and marched off in the direction of the main encampment. As soon as they were out of earshot, Lier let out an exasperated groan. Mehi, Valerie, and Sarah had come up beside Neri. They had moved up in station, being the first. Along with Blue Leader Elsri, to join Lier in the beginning of the war, becoming the best squadron in the military camp, and were known for having the best strategies in the first cycles of the war. They started with her to aid in killing the obsidian dragon that had killed the 3 crimson dragons when they came across it. As they had started with her to aid in killing the obsidian dragon that had killed the 3 crimson dragons when they came across it, as they were gathering information on the humans and the dragons. This dragon was the only dragon which had spoken to them, as he bled out after the battle with Lier and her recon group. Her main group was not the fighters of the squadron. Their talents were in the management of the camp and being able to talk frankly to Lier when they felt she was making a wrong choice, which was rare, but it did happen. So, what happened? Sarah asked. Silence was all that Lier responded with, as she contemplated what she would say. We lost, Elsri said. We just lost. Silence followed the comment, until it was broken by Lier. We were led into a trap. And that's where I'm leaving it. Sorry I stumbled over so much. Yeah, I misread some words. I was adding words in places. I don't know where my mind was at. It just... Not very good. Not very good. I mean, I did get into it near the end, but yeah, that was after realizing I had read the wrong word. That's actually when I realized I got into the swing of it. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this first part of the chapter. It's not done. I'll have one more video on this. And then, yeah, I think the chapter will be done. And the other video will be much shorter, because there's kind of a break in between. It kind of changes scenes, but it still kind of follows along the same lines. So it's in the same chapter. Thank you all for watching. Read to you next time. It's this hand I usually do. Read to you next time. Toodles!